Trifecta Offroad. Today I have a 2002 Chevy S10 Prerunner project that I'm working on. This one's going to be fun. It's a unique truck. Not a lot of people work on these S10s. In fact, I think they're the bastard child of the Prerunner scene. No one really makes lawn travel kits for them either. But anyways, I've already got started a little bit. I decided to do this video about a quarter of the way through, so I'll show you guys what I got so far, and then we'll kind of take off from there. So stay tuned for what we got next. So this is the truck that we're working with. I already took off the bumper, and I already cut off, I got the frame plates straightened out here. I measured out and cut those to have a nice even surface to work off of. When it comes to welding these caps on here, or any welding for that matter, you want to make sure that you do really good prep work. Clean the metal so it's clean, it doesn't have paint on there or dirt, and my preference is to have a corner to corner weld as opposed to maybe having it exactly even with the frame. If you're welding on a surface like that where it's not corner to corner, the weld tends to build up on there. If you have corner to corner, it melds together really nice. It looks really good, comes together nicely. And also one other little trick that I like to use is I mist my welding surface with WD-40. I guess it's a cheap man's way of using some type of anti-spatter spray, but it works really well, and some people jokingly call it ego juice because it makes it just look awesome. So anyways, that's just a little trick that I use. But I would, just to sum it up, when you are welding, I'm not a master welder whatsoever. I don't consider myself the best in the industry, of course, but a lot of welding really does come to the prep work that you do. So you want to kind of take that into account with whatever you're welding. Make sure it's clean, and make sure that the joints that you're welding are prepped in a manner that the weld will come out as good as possible without having to fill any gaps and without having any extra material that probably doesn't need to be there. So next we're going to get on to bending the main tube of the bumper. Alright, so I've measured out the length of tube that I need for the main tube of the bumper. Came out to 8 feet. And anytime I'm doing a bumper, I always measure the center section of it. So in this case, you can see I drew a line there around the tube, and that was at 48 inches. I already took a measurement of where I want to start the bends. That came out to roughly 29.5. And when you're doing your bends, you do need to take into account, I'll walk you over here to the bender, and you can kind of see here. They have a natural spot on the die. Let me see if I can get it focused here. Where the tube, you can see where it's got like the nice shiny portion. That's where the bend actually starts on this die. On this particular die, it's 5/8. I don't know if it's different from one die to the next, but this one's 5/8, so I take that into account when I know where my bend is going to start based on the fact that I have 5/8 of die that's not going to be used, and I line it up, the line that I make, I line it up right on the edge here, so I know that I'm starting my bend exactly. It's an easy spot to pinpoint exactly where the bend is starting, so it's 5/8 from in there. I take that into account when I do my bend marks on the tube. So that's a trick that I use. In regards to the bend, I do it a pretty archaic way. You saw in the last video, I use a ruler that I drilled a hole in and put a bolt through that, and I can basically kind of mimic the angle that I'm going to go off of with that ruler. So that's just one trick that I use. There's many ways to do it. There's actually much more sophisticated ways to do it, and I guess if I had a nice welding table with a flat surface, I could really do it the right way. Sometimes I do use chalk on the ground because that's my biggest surface that I have that's flat to kind of work with, but I guess I could save that for another video. But anyways, I'll show you how I do it pretty much most every time. Okay, so I got the main tube bent up. You can see that I have some really awful, unprofessional way of holding that main tube bumper up with jack stands and cardboard boxes. So this is my shameless plug. If there's anybody out there that wants to sponsor me for some adjustable height jack stands, that would be beautiful. make me look way better than what I look right now. So I'm beginning to, I got the tube on the bottom, if you can see that cross member tacked into place at the bottom. That's where the skid plate's going to connect to. Main tube. Got a couple tubes here that are going to be for the skid plate. And I'm cutting some other tubes here that are going to be going onto the frame and the main bumper. You can see I got it notched there. So this bandsaw is honestly one of the best, cheapest upgrades that I got for the shop. Highly recommend. This particular brand is, well, if you search for RF128, you'll come up on quite a few different bandsaws that they have. This is probably the lowest end one, but it's awesome. Been running it for over 7 to 8 years, and it doesn't skip a beat. Way better than the Harbor Freight ones. Don't waste your time with those. So anyways, I'll start moving on. Once I start getting some of these tubes coped and fit into place, I'll get some progress video on some of the newest additions to this bumper once we start get going. Okay, so I got the bumper tacked into place. All the supports are there. Not all of them. I got to do side supports still, but I have the main supports off the frame that you can see there going to the main bumper, and I've notched the skid plate tubes. My go-to is usually about 15 or 16 degree notches. It changes from time to time depending on the bumper, but for this one it worked perfect, and you can see the coping is very nice and tight, and that's really what you want, so that you get a nice weld and no gaps. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and weld this. I gotta work on the side support tubes, and then I will start working on the skid plate. I wanted to show you something for doing the skid plate tabs. I've already done a lot of stuff here. You probably think I fast forwarded. I didn't. I've been working all day. Make sure you drink water on a hot day. You could die. I'm telling you right now. I drank water, so I'm still alive. But anyways, skid plate tabs. Easiest way, take a flat piece of metal, put it across the tubes, obviously opposing tubes here, and you put it right up on the bottom, and that kind of gives the plane for the skid plate tab, and you can set the tab right in there. I've measured out 4 inches from the top and the bottom. That's just what I chose. I mean, you could do it at whatever measurement suits you, but either way, I got the skid plate tabs in there. I only weld on the ears up here. I don't do any weld on the front portion, just because when we put the skid plate up there, I want it to sit nice and flat up against the bumper. So I'm going to cut the skid plate out next. You guys get to see that. CNC plasma, baby. This is the first time I'm cutting out a skid plate with the plasma cutter. I had some good luck the other day, so I'm going to try this again. Here we go. Alright, cut it out. What I do is I clean it up with the DA on the edges, and it comes out nicely. So next process you're going to see here is me pretty much bolting up that skid plate. There's nothing really to it. Mount it up there, mark your holes, drill them, and get it mounted. So we'll get that finished next. Alright, finished product, guys. Skid plate's on. Looking good. Countersunk holes for the skid plate bolts. So pretty happy with it. Time to go out and have a good night now. Long day, but you know, knocked it out in one day, and it was worth it, man. It looks great, and the customer will definitely be happy. So anyways, stay tuned. We'll see what the next adventure is. Actually, I got a good one coming up here, so stay tuned for that. Probably won't be out for at least a week, so stay tuned guys. There's some good stuff coming up.